Hi book lovers, welcome back to my channel. You are currently seeing a different angle in my room because today I have quite the unhaul for you guys. Before I get into the video though, I do have a quick word from today's sponsor. If you didn't already know, glassesusa.com is one of the biggest eyewear retailers in the US. They offer thousands of sunglasses and eyeglasses from brands such as Ray-Ban, Gucci, Oakley, and many more. What's best about glassesusa.com is that glasses start at only $39, which are up to 70% off retail prices. And if you love these glasses, there is a crazy exclusive offer waiting for you guys. You can click the links in my description box to find out more. The pair that I'm currently wearing is called Muse Brookline and it's in shiny black and gold. These are prescription glasses and I love how they look, how the top is heavier than the bottom. The other pair of prescription glasses that I got is called Santana and this one is in black. They're simple, classic round black glasses. And the final pair I got are these black sunglasses. It's called Muse Ovation in shiny black. Shopping online can be fun, but it can also be extremely overwhelming, especially with so many options. That's why I love shopping for my new glasses with glassesusa.com. They offer some amazing tools to help you find your perfect pair. One of these tools is the AR Virtual Try-On. I used it to find all my frames and it was super helpful. Also, shopping online at glassesusa.com is a risk-free shopping experience with free shipping and returns and 100% money-back guarantee within 14 days. Again, glassesusa.com is offering a crazy exclusive discount. You can use it on top of any current coupon code that they have on their website, and this is just for my subscribers. Click on the links on the top of my description box to get all the details. Once again, thanks to glassesusa.com for sponsoring today's video, and back to the video. This bin, this giant bin that I got from Costco is my unhaul bin. Anytime I get a book that I know I won't read or I know I won't like it, I put it in here, or when I do read a book and I end up not loving it, I also put it in here to eventually get rid of. And as you can tell, there's quite a lot in here because I don't do unhauls like this as often as I should. I do them maybe once or twice a year, and this is definitely my second time in 2022. So this stack of books that I need to unhaul has been building up for months. If you want to take like a closer look at what I have, it's these two stacks and then these three. Not the ones here though. This is my special edition stack that I'm not getting rid of. I just don't have the space to put them anywhere or display them anywhere, but look how pretty they are. See, my pretty special editions, and then these are the ones that I don't need to keep. I honestly don't even know how many books are in this bin. I want to say about half of them are romances, half of them are not. But I do think the easiest way to go about this unhaul is probably just showing you one stack at a time what books these are, just to make it easier on myself to be able to put these books back in this bin in some sort of organized fashion. So let's just jump into it with this first stack. I also forgot I have quite a few arcs in this stack because this first one is an arc of The Lemon Sisters by Jill Chavez, and it's also signed by the author. But even though I have read Jill Chavez before and I've enjoyed her stuff, I don't read her women's fiction books. It's about two sisters, and I know I will never ever read this one, so don't need it. I have this arc of When No One Is Watching by Alyssa Cole, who I don't think has released a book in a while. This is one of her thrillers. It's Rear Window meets Get Out, and I did actually contemplate maybe reading this one, but clearly I have not. It came out in, what, 2020? Never touched it. I have this super random book, Take Your Breath Away by Linwood Barclay. I honestly don't even know why I was sent this one. It's another psychological thriller. I have this one, Thank You Next by Andy J. Christopher. I've read one book by this author and I did not love it. And I really don't think that I'll ever get to reading more of her books because her writing just wasn't for me. It's a romance between a divorce attorney and an up-and-coming chef. And then this one is a YA arc. It's House of L by Claudia Gray, who I used to read a long time ago, but I think I only read one or two of her books, her paranormal stuff. But yeah, this is YA. It's a graphic novel. It's some sort of sci-fi graphic novel. Here is a fantasy book, Wrath Goddess Sing by Maya Dean. The cover is really pretty, which is probably why I was like, ooh, maybe I could read it, but that did not happen. It's a mythology fantasy. It's based on Achilles and it has a trans heroine. Here is another women's fiction book that I know I will never get to. It's Out of the Clear Blue Sky by Kristen Higgins. I also read this author ages ago. She was one of the like early 2000s type of contemporary romance authors that I read, but I think her earlier stuff was more romancy, and this is definitely not. The main character is an empty nester and her husband has just dumped her for a younger woman. This book has kind of a funny story. It has the exact same ISBN number as the hardcover of Indigo by Beverly Jenkins, or at least one of her hardcovers, because I ordered a hardcover thinking it was going to be a Beverly Jenkins book, and I got this instead. Thankfully, I did get a refund from Thrift Books or whatever online used bookstore it was from, but they didn't want this back. It's called Awakening Mercy by Angela Benson. I would have happily returned it, but they didn't want it back, so here it is. And this one is Dark Whisper by Christine Feehan. She just has way too many books that I know I will never get to, so I need to let this go. I'm pretty sure this is her newest one. It is one of her paranormal romances and it's winter themed, as you can tell. I also decided to get rid of my Sophie Kinsella collection. I mean, I don't really have a huge collection of hers, but I do have some of them, so you'll be seeing them in this bin. I just know I'll never really get to reading them. I used to read her. I mean, I've only read maybe 2 or 3 of her books a long time ago, and I do love them, especially Can You Keep a Secret, but I'm just not into her books anymore, so I need to get rid of the hardcovers that I haven't read and don't love. But this one is called Love Your Life, and it's about a writer who goes on this writer's retreat in Italy and finds love there. Here is The Vanishing Hour by Laura Griffin. It's some sort of suspense, romantic suspense, and I just don't read this subgenre. A couple historical romances. This is The Gunslinger's Guide to Avoiding Matrimony by Michelle McLean. It's a Western historical romance with a gunslinger hero, and it actually does sound really fun. The gunslinger hero wants to retire in this one town, but the only way to retire there is to either get a job or marry, and he keeps getting fired, so he has to marry someone. This one is The Duke's Rules of Engagement by Jennifer Haymore. I've never read her before. I've never heard about her before, but it's a matchmaker historical romance. This is a Grace Burrows book. It's Lady E's Indiscretion, and I read Grace Burrows for the first time this year or last year for Historical Romance Readathon. I actually DNF'd it, so I don't need to keep her books anymore. This is The Road Goes On by Amanda Collins. It's a 2-for-1 paperback. There's 2 romances here, Wallflower Most Wanted and One for the Rogue. I also haven't read her before. I also do not like this mass market max paperback size, so the more I can get rid of these paperbacks, the better. This one is Cowboy Wolf Outlaw by Kate Ballinger. It's some sort of paranormal cowboy romance. I don't know, shape-shifting cowboys. Not into it. Here is It Takes a Villa by Kilby Blades. Also haven't read this author, but if you like, I don't know, Italian set romances, maybe this is for you. The heroine buys an abandoned villa for the price of $1. Also getting rid of Big Bad Wolf by Salika Snyder, because I did not like this book at all. It's like an apocalyptic wolf shifter romance, but the romance was so bad. And another sort of cowboy book, Devil's Ride West by David Nix. Here is a holiday romance that I just don't have any interest in. It's The Summer of Christmas by Juliet Giglio and Keith Giglio. It's a holiday romance, but it's actually set in the summer. The heroine gets her screenplay produced. It's gonna be filmed in the summer in her hometown, which means she has to reunite with her ex. And then another historical romance, Some Dukes Have All the Luck by Christina Britton. My historical romance shelf is just overflowing, so I've gotten very picky with the new historical romances that I get in paperback, and I know I probably just won't ever get to this one, so I don't need it. Here is an arc of Stealing Infinity by Alison Noel, who is a YA author that I used to read. Didn't really like her books though, so I probably won't be into this one. I mean, it is YA anyway, but it says it's The Da Vinci Code meets Riverdale. This one I'm debating whether to actually get rid of because it does sound cute, but my track record with paranormal rom-coms has not been the best. There just aren't any really good ones. So I don't have that high hopes for this one, which is Imperfect Angel by Christy Barth. The heroine inherits this key, which ends up being the key to hell, and she accidentally gives it to a demon. And the hero is a Nephilim, which I haven't really come across since my days of reading The Mortal Instruments. So I'll put this in the maybe pile just because I really want to finally find a good paranormal rom-com. And here is Fetish, which is an anonymous collection of erotic short stories. All the authors are completely anonymous. You don't know who wrote them, but I'm not really into reading short stories that much unless I know and love the author. So this was the first stack, and I forgot that I wanted to do a count of how many books I was unhauling. I'm gonna say there's maybe around 20 in this first stack. And then moving on to this stack, another mass market max historical romance, Rules for Engaging the Earl by Janet McGregor. It's a childhood best friends romance, and the heroine is pregnant, about to give birth to her late husband's child, which is interesting. I don't really see a lot of pregnant heroines in historical romances. This is an arc of Ben Toward the Sun by Jen Devon, which I just read and thought it was really boring, so I don't want to keep this. Here is Girl Off the Grid by Jillian Dodd. I just don't really read this author, so I don't really want to keep this book. It's Enemies to Lovers. The heroine is a fashion blogger, the hero is a wildlife photographer, and they are forced to go off the grid for a project. Here is a giant hardcover, Quarter to Midnight by Karen Rose. Like, look how huge it is. It's romantic suspense, and I do actually want to read Karen Rose eventually. I just know I won't be getting to this one, and it's taking up too much space. This is nonfiction. It's I Want to Be Where the Normal People Are by Rachel Bloom. It's a collection of essays, and originally I got this because I love Rachel Bloom. I loved her show Crazy Ex-Girlfriend, but I just never ended up reading this one. Another thriller. As you can tell, I don't really keep thrillers. This is The Murder Rule by Dervla McTiernan. Here is Hide by Kirsten White, who used to write YA, but I think this is her first thriller, and I did notice that it has a really cool end paper. There's a whole map to it, but again, I don't read thrillers. A historical mystery here. This is Three Debts Paid by Anne Perry. Another Anne Perry, A Darker Reality. I've never read her before, and I don't plan to. This one has a very pretty cover. It's In a Garden Burning Gold by Rory Power, and I originally got it because I think I've heard good things about this author, but of course never ended up reading this one. It's some sort of fantasy, the first book in a duology. Here is a paperback cookbook. It's Feeding the Frasers by Sammy Moniz, and usually I do really like cookbooks, but only by people I either, know or have heard about. I don't know who these people are. This is a fiction book set in the 2000s. It's The Kindest Lie by Nancy Johnson. Another thriller, Reckless Girls by Rachel Hawkins. This one is a women's fiction book, A Summer to Remember by Erica Montgomery. A YA book, Anna K. Away by Jenny Lee. I think this is a sequel, actually. It's a sequel to Anna K, which I haven't read, so I don't need this. A historical fiction book, Last Dance on the Starlight Pier by Sarah Bird. It does have a really nice cover. Where the Grass is Green and the Girls Are Pretty by Lauren Weisberger, who is the author of The Devil Wears Prada, which is probably why I got this, and never read it. Here is a Jane Ann Krantz romantic suspense. It's Lightning in a Mirror, and I generally get her books because she used to write historical romance, but I never ended up reading any of her non-historical romances. Here is a fiction book, Skyfalling by Mia Mackenzie. So that was another 20 books in that stack, so we are up to 40 right now. I also get a ton of mass market paperbacks. I don't know how, they just somehow end up showing up at my house, so I have so many to get rid of. Like this one, I somehow have an extra copy of Big Bad Wolf by Sulika Snyder. I don't know how, but again, I did not like this book, so I don't want it. A love-inspired inspirational romance, which I do not read. This is a line that I don't touch. It's Alaskan Christmas Redemption by Belle Calhoun. The Duke Who Loved Me by Jane Ashford. This is a historical romance. I've never read this author before, though I do like the wintry vibe of this cover. I got another Grace Burrows book. This is Never a Duke. Here's a Christine Feehan paperback, Shadowfire. How to Deceive a Duke by Samara Parrish. I do do like the sound of this heroine. She is an engineer, a chemist, and a rebel. All the Duke I Need by Carolyn Linden. I don't think I've read this author, or maybe I've tried and I just couldn't get into it, so I don't need more of her books. This one I'm a little iffy with getting rid of, but I don't like the size of the paperback. It's Up All Night with a Good Duke by Amy Rose Bennett. I kind of want to keep this one just because it does sound interesting. The heroine is a finishing school teacher by day and a gothic romance writer by night. Dukes Do It Better by Bethany Bennett. This one I literally don't want to because of the cover. I'm not a fan of it. Tough Justice by T. O'Fallon. This is romantic suspense and it has a cute little dog on the cover. Here's another book with a dog on the cover. This is The Accidental Newlywed Game by J.C. Burton. What She Wants by Lindsay Sands. This is one of her medieval books. I'm guessing just from this cover, but I'm just not really into Lindsay Sands. I've read like a couple of her books and I did really enjoy one of them, but I don't really need to collect her. Another Amanda Collins book. This is A Lady's Guide to Mischief and Mayhem. Not a fan of this cover and I just don't like the size. His Lessons on Love by Kathy Maxwell. I've read one Kathy Maxwell book and it was okay, so I don't feel the need to read more of her now. A paranormal historical romance. This is A Wolf in Duke's Clothing by Susanna Allen. And then another author that I've never read, Fortune Favors the Duke by Kristen Baden. Here is a Nora Roberts 2-in-1 paperback. There's The Right Path and Partners. I don't know, I like Nora Roberts. I mean, I've only read one of her books. I read her for the first time this year and I loved it, but I just don't really want to keep these paperbacks. Oh, and the bind up is called Summer Shadows. Yet another Grace Burrows book, Lady Jenny's Christmas Portrait. The other one that I read was another one of her Christmas romances. That was the one that really turned me off from her books, so I don't think I'll be reading this one. A Most Unusual Duke by Susanna Allen, another paranormal historical romance. Another Nora Roberts bind up, Heart and Soul. This one has From This Day and Storm Warning. Here's an arc of Rules for Heiresses by Emily Howard. I just finished up this series and this one was sadly my least favorite, but this is an arc and I already have the finished copy, so I don't need this one. This is Duke on Rogue by Christy Carlisle. Never read this author. Oh my gosh, this is an arc of A Most Unusual Duke by Susanna Allen. An Unexpected Earl by Anna Harrington. This author I have read, but I don't love her enough to really want to keep her books. An Amish holiday romance that I know I did not ask for. This is The Second Christmas by Marta Perry. Reckless Fortune by M.M. Crane. This one is some sort of small town, Alaskan town romance. This has a cute cover, but I don't think I'll ever get to reading it, so I don't need it. It's Talk Flirty to Me by Livy Hart. It's a brother's best friend romance, and the two of them are narrating an erotic romance. Here is A Small Town Romance with a Single Dad, A Wedding on Sunshine Corner by Phoebe Mills. Yet another Nora Roberts bind-up. This is called Blue Skies and it's got summer desserts and lessons learned. A Highlander historical romance, Highland Justice by Heather McCollum. A paranormal romance, While the Wolf's Away by Terry Spear. And The Duplicate Bride by Ginny Bear. This one I have read and I really did not like it. I really wanted to love it. It's got a twin heroine who switches places with her sister who is supposed to get married, but it ended up being so poorly done. Not a good read. So that was 31 books, 31 mass market paperbacks, and I do have couple more in the stack that I'll get to, but I have too many of these and my mass market paperback shelves are just overflowing and I need to do a serious unhaul of them. But right now we are at 70-ish books, so I'm assuming we'll get to around double that by the end of this video. For stack number 4, I have 2 more Sophie Kinsella's that I'm getting rid of. Here is Christmas Shopaholic, part of her popular Shopaholic series that I've never read, and The Party Crasher, which has a heroine whose stepmother invites everyone in their family to this party except for the heroine. Here is a queer YA book, Bedazzled by Ryan LaSala. I sadly just don't read YA, so I don't need this one. Another YA, this time it's some sort of fantasy, Spark of Ash by Molly E. Lee. Here is an arc of The Dragon Republic by R.F. Kuang. This is book 2, I believe, in the Poppy War series, which I have heard really good things about. I love how freaking floppy this paperback is. And then here is a dark romance, Spark by Aletha Romig. I have never read Aletha Romig before, I don't think, and I don't know if I ever plan to. Here is The Girl with Stars in Her Eyes by Shio Axelrod. This one I thought it was a romance, but apparently it's more like women's fiction. Another women's fiction book. This cover is super adorable with all the peaches on it, but it's No Regrets by Tabitha Webb about three best friends. Another YA book that I will never read. It's Call It What You Want by Bridget Kammerer. And then here is a Max Monroe book. This is Taming Hollywood's Baddest Boy. I have not had the best luck with Max Monroe's books. I just haven't come across a book that I've loved from them. I've read maybe like 5 or 6 books from them and I still don't really love their stuff, so I don't need their paperbacks. Here is a book that I got at the movie premiere, the Netflix premiere of Along for the Ride by Sarah Dessen. I already own the original edition and this one isn't signed or anything, so I don't really need to keep it, and I also don't love this new cover. I have a Nicholas Sparks book for some reason. This is Dreamland. Here is All My Rage by Sabaa Tahir. This one I did think sounded interesting, but again, I just don't read YA. Here's an arc of Don't You Forget About Me by Vari McFarlane. I don't love this author's books. I struggled with them a lot. I'm just not a fan of her writing, so I don't need this. Here's a book that I did read and did not enjoy, so I don't want to keep it. It's Love at First Sight by Suzanne Park. Here is an Amanda Quick historical fiction book. This is called When She Dreams, and it's not one of her romances, so I don't think I really need this one. A YA anthology, and the cover is really nice. It's called Reclaim the Stars, 17 Tales Across Realms and Space. And this one I wanted to keep just because the cover is so freaking adorable, but again, it's YA, and I know I will never ever get to reading this. It's called It All Comes Back to You by Farah Naz Rishi, and it's a enemies to lovers romance, so if you love YA, I would read this one just for the cover. I also realized I may have lied a bit about how many mass market paperbacks I have left to unhaul, because look at this stack right there. These two. Yeah, I still have these two to unhaul. So that was another 20 book stack, almost 20 books. So the total is about 90 right now. And I have next to me even more mass market paperbacks, about 40 something of them. It's a lot, so I'll go through them a little bit quickly so I can get to my last 2 big stacks. Most of these are historical romances though. So this one is Any Rogue Will Do by Bethany Bennett. I've been meaning to read this author, but I just haven't gone to her, and I don't think I will anytime soon. Here's an MM historical romance, It Takes Two to Tumble by Kat Sebastian. A Western historical romance, Rose by Jill Marie Landis, and it does have a step back, but it's nothing really to write home about, so I don't need to keep it. This one, I'm not sure I want to keep it or get rid of it, just because the cover is that cool little type where if you move it, you can see there's the girl on it. It's called Charmed by Catherine Hart. It's a Native American romance, time travel romance, but the thing is, am I ever gonna actually read it? Probably not, and I really need to cut down on my books to just my favorite reads or my favorite authors, and this one I just don't know if I'll ever get to it. I got Baby Love by Catherine Anderson, and unfortunately this is not the step back version that I wanted, so I need to get rid of this. Here is Valentine Wedding by Jane Feather with this pretty step back, but never read this author. Hidden Honor by Anne Stewart. I'm pretty sure I got this in an Anne Stewart lot, and I got it just for like 1 or 2 specific editions, and this was one that I did not need. Here is a very pretty cover. It's Sweet Desire by Sarah Orwig. The Scoundrel's Daughter by Anne Gracie, who I've been kind of wanting to read, but I'm just not interested in her newer stuff. I more want to try her older stuff. Another author that I feel the same way about is Mary Ballow. This is Someone Perfect. This is one of her newer releases, but I've heard good things about her older stuff. Here's a cowboy romance, The Cowboy and His Baby by Jessica Clare. This one, unfortunately, I got some water on it, so it did get a little bit warped, so gotta get rid of it. Another Jessica Clare cowboy book. This is The Bachelor Cowboy, and I also haven't read this series. I like her billionaire books, but I haven't read her in a long time. But I'm just not interested in her cowboy stuff, so I don't need them. A Good Duke is Hard to Find by Christina Britton. I do really like this cover, but I don't read her. Here's Laura Kinsale. This is The Hidden Heart. I wanted the original edition with the illustrated couple, and I was able to find it, so I don't need this one. Another Nora Roberts bind up. This is called A Christmas Promise. It's got A Will and a Way and Home for Christmas, so 2 holiday romances. This is a Western historical set in Texas. It's A Man of Legend by Linda Brode. Here's a wedding romance, Bride for a Day by Carolyn Brown. A small town romance by Sharon Sala, The Best of Me. Another Susanna Allen arc, A Wolf in Duke's Clothing. I think this is book 1 in her paranormal historical romance series. Another small town here, Find Your Way Home by Jackie Ashenden. I'm just not interested in these types of small town romances. Lisa Byrne, who I have not read, The Redemption of Philip Thane, another historical romance. A Christmas small town romance, No Ordinary Christmas by Belle Calhoun, a historical romance with the back cover step back. This is Samantha James, Just One Kiss. Here is Suzanne Enoch. This cover is very interesting. It's called The Care and Taming of a Rogue, and here is the step back. Another Native American romance that I don't need, The Captive by Janelle Dellen. Another Mary Ballow book, Someone to Cherish. This one is Secrets of a Proper Lady by Victoria Alexander, and it does have a very like soft looking ethereal step back, but I've never read this author and I don't really hear a lot of things about her, so I don't need her. An FF romance from Olivia Waite. This is called The Hellions Waltz. This one is Say You'll Be My Lady by Kate Pembroke. Another cover I'm not a fan of. Simply Magic by Mary Ballow. This one I'm pretty sure was also in a lot, and I just didn't want this one. Another small town, Secrets from the Heart by Sean D. Young. This one has a very interesting cover. I don't like the font on it, but it's called Love Cherish Me by Rebecca Brandune. It does have a nice back cover though. This is The Raider's Bride by Kimberly Cates and Inconvenient Duke by Anna Harrington. Another Jessica Clare book, another cowboy one, but this one is holiday themed. Holly Jolly Cowboy. Okay, I didn't realize Jessica Clare had this many cowboy books, cowboy romances, and this is another holiday cowboy romance. It's A Cowboy Under the Mistletoe. All I Want for Christmas is a Cowboy by Jessica Clare again, and this one is another one that got water and unfortunately got warped. Okay, I do like this title. Girls Before Earls by Anna Bennett. A Force of Nature by Nora Roberts. Another 2-in-1. It's got Boundary Lines and Untamed. A Relentless Rake by Anna Harrington. Clearly, I'm just getting rid of all of my Anna Harringtons. A Paranormal Romance, Mad for a Mate by Mary Janice Davidson. A Gentleman Says I Do by Amelia Gray. Cowboy Tough by Joan Kennedy. And my final mass market paperback in this unhaul. There's so many of them. This is a Highlander historical romance by Hannah Howell. Then finally, my last 2 stacks of books, which are mostly gonna be romances, trade paperback romances. So if you've been waiting to see what other romances that I'm getting rid of that are not just, you know, the mass market historical romances, here they are. This is an FF romance, Hairpin Curves by Elia Winters. It's a frenemies to lovers road trip romance. Okay, this one is a YA romance. It's called The Gravity of Missing Things by Marissa Ergo. This one is To Marry and to Meddle by Martha Waters. I don't actually really like this series that much. All of the books I'm pretty sure I've given 3 stars. It's a very okay series, so I don't really want to keep the books. Another historical romance with a cutesy little cover. It's Miss Lattimore's Letter by Suzanne Elaine, who also wrote Mr. Malcolm's List. I just watched the movie of it and it was so boring, so I don't really want to read the books. Here's another collection of stories written by anonymous authors. It's called Aphrodite in Bloom. A YA book that I don't ever plan on reading is The Damned by Renee Ahdieh. Cover is really nice though. Something Fabulous by Alexis Hall. This is a historical romance and I did not enjoy it that much. It was okay, a little bit too silly for me, so I don't really want to keep the paperback, and also I hate this cover. This is Heartbreak for Hire by Sonia Hartle. It has an interesting premise, but I don't think there's any steam in it, so I'm not interested. But it's basically about a heroine who works for this company who is hired to break up with people, and the hero is one of the new male hires. The Boy Toy by Nicola Marsh. This one, I haven't read this author, but her books just don't really seem that interesting to me. This is The Checklist by Addie Woolridge. This one I have read. It Takes Heart by Tiff Marcello. Also a very underwhelming read that I didn't love. Payback's a Witch by Lana Harper. This is an FF paranormal romance, but I think I heard that there wasn't actually that much romance in it, so I'm not that interested. This is The Sweetest Remedy by Janie Garrow. It's got a really nice cover, but I just don't think I'll ever be able to get to it. For some reason, I have 2 copies of this book, Ramon and Julieta by Alana Quintana Albertson. This one I have read, another 3-star read that I don't need to keep. Nora Roberts, Without a Doubt. This time it's a trade paperback 2-in-1 and not mass market. It's got Night Moves and This Magic Moment. The Girl Next Door by Chelsea M. Cameron. This is Opposites Attract, Small Town, and FF. This one is not a romance. It's called With Love from Wish & Co. by Minnie Drake. I got this in a Todd book, The Falling. It's the start of a new series. It's not after related, I don't think, but I kind of wanted to read it right before I went to a book signing where she was moderating, but I didn't get to it and I don't think I ever will. More Vari McFarlane books that I don't want to keep. These 2 I have read, If I Never Met You and Just Last Night. I did somewhat like If I Never Met You, but Just Last Night was not good. And I definitely didn't enjoy this one enough to keep it, so I don't need these 2. A Dupe, The Spy, An Artist, and a Lie by Vanessa Riley, a historical romance. Every Summer After by Carly Fortune, which I did not like. I was very annoyed by this book and I really don't want to keep it. Hideaway by Nora Roberts. This is not a 2-in-1 book for once. I think it's one of her romantic suspense books, but I prefer her hardcovers, so I don't want to keep her paperbacks. And this one is A Recipe for Persuasion by Sonali Dev. I have read this one. I read a couple books in this Raja series by Sonali Dev. They're okay. I don't love them enough to keep them. I do like the idea of them though, like each of the books is some sort of retelling of a Jane Austen book. This one is obviously persuasion, but I don't end up loving the romances that much. Okay, I just counted those up and that was another 25 books and my total is about 160 books right now. This is already bigger than my last unhaul, or the one where I unhauled 150 books, and I still have one more stack to show you guys. This one's another Sonali Dev book that I'm getting rid of. It's Incense and Sensibility. It was another very okay read. I got these 2 interesting looking books, but I don't think they're actually romances. I don't know, it sounds so strange. It's more like a romantic drama series. It's by Joy Lynn M. Jossel, When Souls Mate and the Root of All Evil. This is The Makeup Test by Jenny L. Howe. This one just does not sound that interesting to me. It's set in academia, but I don't know, it looks pretty boring. This one is Wishful Thinking by Celeste Martin. It's a witchy paranormal romance, but I just can't find myself to be that interested in cutesy, small town paranormal romances. I like the more like gritty, actiony, and hot paranormal romances. Here is Something in the Air by Suzanne Enoch. This one does kind of sound cute. It's got an arranged marriage and the heroine tells a lie about having kids with her husband, and now they have to adopt these 2 orphans and pass them off as their kids, but I just don't think I'll ever really get to it. Here is Follow Me Under by Helen Hart. It's part of some erotic romance series with a billionaire hero. Here is Rushed by Aurora Rose Reynolds. I read a couple of her books, but they're okay. This is The Kindred Spirit Supper Club by Amy E. Reichert. I've never read this author before, but I think I have heard that her books aren't that romance heavy. Here is an extra copy that I have of On the Hustle by Adriana Herrera. This was a very fun read, but I don't need 2 copies of it, so I'm getting rid of my extra one. Another Nicholas Sparks book. This is The Return. Not Your Average Hot Guy by Gwenda Bond. This one I have read and it was kind of bad. I didn't enjoy it at all. It's another one of those paranormal rom-coms that totally failed for me. This one is not a romance, but does very much scream Bridgerton with this cover. It's called Reputation by Lex Croucher. The Beach Trap by Allie Brady. It's a former best friend's romance who reunite to renovate a house. This one is Love Scenes by Bridget Morrissey. It's a Hollywood romance. Another boring book that I am getting rid of, How Sweet It Is by Dylan Newton. And this one actually sounded so good in theory. It's a romance between the Queen of Romance and the King of Horror. Another Janie Garro book that I know I just won't ever read. It's Ties That Tether. Here is If You Ask Me by Libby Hubsher. Business Not As Usual by Sharon C. Cooper. I borrowed the audiobook for this one and I listened to maybe an hour or 2 hours and I just gave up on it because I wasn't interested. And this one is a women's fiction book, Our Italian Summer by Jennifer Probst. Here is another Andy J. Christopher book that I don't need. It's not that kind of guy. Another 3-star read that I have to get rid of. It's A Low Country Bride by Preslesa Williams. I believe there's a sequel out, but I'm just not invested enough to read it. Waiting for Tom Hanks by Carrie Winfrey. I've been meaning to read this for the longest time and it's been years since this came out. Yeah, this came out in 2019, so it's been 3 years and I don't think I'll ever get to it. Another book that I have no plans to read is Breathe the Sky by Michelle Hazen. This one's by Alexa Martin and I do love her stuff, but I'm just not that interested in reading this one. It's Mom Jeans and Other Mistakes. Here is The Romantic Agenda by Claire Kahn. This was an interesting read. I gave it 3.5 stars. I wanted to love it more, but I was really more into the friendship than the romance here, so it didn't quite work for me, and I sadly just don't love it enough to keep it. And the last book that I'm unhauling is Faker by Sarah Smith. This one was another not so great read for me. Pretty sure I gave it 2 stars, so there's absolutely no reason for me to keep this book. I probably should unhaul the other books that I have from her, but I'm a little too lazy to find them right now, and also I might give her another try. We'll see. So that was my last stack. Is about another 25 books, so doing the math, I unhauled about 185 books today. Maybe next time I'll make it to 200. But this is pretty much everything that I'm getting rid of this time. I cannot wait for them to get out of my house so I can have an empty bin and I can start refilling it in the new year. If you're interested in any of these books, please feel free to message me on Instagram. I would love to rehome these. Otherwise, I'm just gonna donate them or drop them off at my used bookstore. I hope you enjoyed this unhaul. I don't even know if this was enjoyable to watch because I went through these books so fast, but I did have a ton to get through. A big thank you again to GlassesUSA.com for sponsoring today's video. Don't miss out on the exclusive discount on top of any coupon code they currently have on the website just for you guys. Click on the links in the top of my description box to get all the details. Thank you so much for watching and I will see you all next time. Bye!